The day everything changed seemed like it happened yesterday. I was 9 years old and sitting at our kitchen table when Mom and Dad sat down with serious faces I had never seen before. Dad reached for my hand, his own trembling slightly. "Amber, sweetheart," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I need to tell you something important." I didn't fully understand what it meant at the time, but I understood enough to know that my world had changed. My mom forgot to hang up the phone, and what I overheard revealed the truth about my ideal family, so I left for good. I watched my father, who had been strong and vibrant, slowly fade away. Mom tried to keep things normal, but everything was different now. She would force smiles during the day, but at night I would hear her crying in their bedroom. I sat outside their door, wanting to go in, but I didn't know what to say. When Dad died when I was 11, the funeral was a blur of black clothes and hushed voices. Mom held my hand so tightly in pain, but I didn't mind because I believed we would get through it together. Was incorrect. A week after the funeral, Mom sat me down once more, this time by myself. "I've been talking to your grandmother, and she said," not quite meeting my eyes, "I think it would be best if you stayed with her for a little while just until I can get things sorted out." "But why can't I stay here with you?" I said in a small voice. "I need some time alone, honey, to process everything to figure out how to move forward," she replied, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear, but the gesture felt hollow. "It'll just be for a few months," she added. While driving to her modest two-story home, she didn't say much, but I could see her knuckles whiten on the steering wheel. When we got there, she helped me carry my bags to the guest room. Over the next few months, Mom would call every few weeks, and the conversations would always go like this. "When can I come home, Mom? Just be patient, sweetie. Just a little longer. I miss you too, but this is better for now." Grandma never said it aloud. Instead, she would simply press her lips together whenever Grandma made sure I never felt unwelcome by occupying herself in the kitchen, banging pots and pans a bit louder than necessary, cooking my favorite meals, helping me with my homework, and telling me stories about my dad when he was little. However, even though I was at Grandma's, I kept waiting for Mom to return so she would want me again. And after 6 months, Mom finally came for me. I was working on my homework at the kitchen table when I heard a car pull up outside through the window and saw Mom step out of a strange blue sedan. A man I had never seen before stayed in the driver's seat, and Amber Mom came in the door more animated than I had seen her since Dad died. Her hair was styled, her makeup was fresh, and she was wearing a new dress. "I have amazing news." Grandma came from the living room, arms crossed, and Sarah said, "Mom, Amber, I want you to meet someone special." Elle responded, practically bouncing. "He's waiting in the car. He's a bit shy about coming in." And she grabbed my hands. I looked at Grandma, whose face had turned to stone. "Sarah." Grandma's voice was measured and careful. "Don't you think this is a little sudden? Oh, Margaret, when you meet him, you'll understand that he is perfect for us." Mom said, "Amber, he's going to be such a wonderful stepfather to you and his girls, Emma and Lisa, who are 9 and 10 years old. Their mother passed away 3 years ago, and Robert raised them alone. We're going to be one big happy family." A mom said, "Get your things together and go home. The girls are waiting to meet you." The drive home was full of Mom talking about Robert, the wedding plans, and how wonderful everything would be. When we arrived at our house, which Dad and Mom had purchased together, 2 girls were sitting on the front steps looking like matching dolls with their identical blonde hair and pink dresses. Mom called out, "Come eat, Amber," and I stepped forward, trying to smile. 3 months later, I stood in front of a mirror wearing a plain blue dress, while Emma and Lisa twirled around in matching pink bridesmaid gowns. "We know who you are, the taller one," Emma interrupted me. Her voice was sweet as honey, but her eyes were cold. "Our dad told us all about you." And Lisa, the younger one, added, "But just so you know, he's not going to be your dad. He's our dad, and your mom is going to be our new mom." I smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. When Mom suggested matching dresses for all 3 of us, or that she wasn't really a part of the family in the official wedding photo, I was barely visible because Emma and Lisa had positioned themselves to block me out. As I stared at those pictures, I realized that this wasn't going to be the family that Mom had promised, and our blended family swiftly settled into a routine. Our wedding was about to begin, and I could still hear the echo of their screaming from earlier. The first Christmas, after the wedding, made it crystal clear where I stood. Emma and Lisa each received new iPads and designer clothes, while I received a simple phone and some sweaters from the discount store. Thank God for Grandma Margaret, who never forgot me. She never forgot me when I turned 13. He would come home from work, hug Emma and Lisa, kiss my mother, and walk right past me as if I were a piece of furniture to show her devotion to her new husband. When I refused to use it, Emma noticed the picture inside around my neck at dinner. She said, eyes gleaming, "You should share it with me." The next day, I discovered that the chain of the locket was mysteriously broken. A week later, I discovered my sketchbook soaked in water, and the pricey pencils had snapped in half. When I confronted Lisa, she simply smiled and said, "Sweetheart, look what they did." I tried showing her the ruined supplies, Amber, but she was being dramatic. I sighed. "You probably left them out in the rain yourself. Stop trying to blink your sisters for everything." In the spring, 3 weeks after Mom returned from the hospital, they called a family meeting in the living room, and now that Michael was here, Mom started not looking me in the eyes. When I turned 15, Mom revealed again that she was pregnant, and everyone in the house was ecstatic, except for me. Robert's daughter squealed about having a baby brother or sister, and I sat quietly, knowing what this would mean. Changes to sleeping arrangements. Robert cleared his throat and said, "We think it would be best if you moved in with Emma and Lisa. Michael needs his own room." Before I could stop him, he said, "I'm not sharing a room with them. This is my room. This is my father's house." The room fell silent. "Dad bought this house," I said, my voice getting louder. "You and your daughters moved into our house, and now you want to take my room away." Robert's face turned red, and Emma and Lisa sat their mouths open, for once incredulous. After 3 days of total silence in the house, the voice shook and she began to cry. "How can you be so selfish after everything we've done for you?" she said. "Robert has been nothing but good to you, and this is how you repay us. Good to me." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. He doesn't even look at me. After that, the house became even more of a prison. Mom and Robert pretended that I wasn't there during meals, and Emma and Lisa didn't even bother with their usual taunts. They simply pretended that I wasn't there. When Grandma's car pulled into the driveway, I grabbed my phone and called the one person who had never let me down. Mom and Robert watched from the kitchen window as I left with my backpack, and they didn't try to stop me. On the contrary, they seemed relieved. After years of holding my breath, life at Grandma's felt like breathing again, and we settled into an easy routine of breakfast together every morning. She baked lengthy talks about Dad and what he was like when I was 2 months old. 2 months went by swiftly. She sat me down with a serious expression on her face and said, "I need to tell you something." She took my hands in hers and said, "I've been talking to your mother, and she's willing to give up her parental rights, and I want to adopt you officially." I stared at her, barely believing that it was true, but I wanted you to know that this has always been your home, and that I would be honored to be your legal guardian. Tears filled my eyes as I hugged her. "Yes, please, yes." The legal process went surprisingly well, and Mom signed the paperwork without hesitation. The only thing left to do was to get my remaining belongings from the house. When I returned home, nobody was there, and I discovered everything packed in boxes in the garage, covered in dust. My old room had been completely converted into a nursery for Michael, painted blue, with clouds on the ceiling. I packed my boxes into Grandma's car without saying goodbye, because after all, high school had changed. Emma and Lisa still went to the same school, but we lived in different worlds and would pass each other in the hallways without a glance, like strangers who had never met. I would occasionally hear them laughing with their friends about weekend plans or family vacations, but it was like listening to a radio station in a different room, far away and disconnected from my reality. I threw myself into my studies, determined to succeed, and Grandma helped me every step of the way, encouraging me to aim high and helping me with college applications. When my acceptance letter from State University arrived, along with a partial scholarship offer, Grandma was more thrilled than I had ever seen her. She said that evening, "I've been saving for your college fund since the day your father died. I wanted to make sure you'd have options." The amount she had saved left me speechless, and we decided to save the majority of the money for my future. I might need it for graduate school or perhaps to start my own business. After college, those first few years were life-changing. I called Grandma every Sunday, visited during the holidays, and finally felt like I was creating my own life. My mother, Robert, and their ideal. The call came during my final semester of senior year, Amber, and Grandma's voice was weaker than I had ever heard. The doctors discovered something, so I began going home every weekend after that. Grandma seemed a little weaker and more exhausted, but she never lost her spirit. She would insist, even as the hospital machines beeped around her, that I didn't. Save all that money for your education just for you to play nursemaid to an elderly woman when you graduated. Grandma was too weak to attend, so the nurses helped support her in her hospital bed, and we set up her smartphone so she could watch the live stream. After I crossed the stage and received my diploma, I blew her a kiss and looked straight into the camera. She later told me that she had cried the entire ceremony. I went straight from graduation to the hospital for the following week, hardly leaving her side as we talked about everything and nothing. We talked about Dad, our childhood stories, and our hopes for the future until one calm morning while I was holding her. She slipped away peacefully in her sleep while organizing the funeral. It felt unreal to be picking out flowers and making arrangements in the same house where I had breakfast with my grandmother only weeks prior. On the day of the service, I saw my mother, Robert, Emma, Lisa, and a little boy I hardly recognized, as my half-brother Michael entered the funeral home. 7 years had changed them. Emma and Lisa were now grown women, and Michael, whom I had last seen as a baby, was now a grade school student wearing a small black suit. The ceremony went by quickly, and I stood by the coffin accepting, "It's been a long time, but would you consider coming to dinner with us all? We'd like to try to make things right." Looking at her face, which was now lined with age and grief, I felt the weight of all our unsaid words. "I'll think about it." Mom was there abruptly, Amber. She said softly, her eyes red from crying. "I'm so sorry for your loss. Margaret was a wonderful woman. I know I needed not to trust myself to speak." Mom continued twisting her hands together nervously. The house where I grew up looked smaller and more run down, with peeling paint and an overgrown garden inside. Robert, Emma, Lisa, and Michael were waiting around the dining room table, and the awkward silence was broken only by the clinking of silverware against plates. Mom finally said, forcing brightness into her voice, "What are your plans now that you've graduated?" I took a slow sip of water before responding. "I'm staying in town." I had met with Grandma's lawyer and learned that she had left me everything, including the house, her savings, and everything. I decided that perhaps it was time to move on, genuinely going to live in Grandma's house, but I noticed a brief moment of happiness in her eyes, and something about it unnerved me. I couldn't explain why my business administration degree got me a job at Wilson & Associates as a junior executive, paying more than I could have ever imagined earning out of college. And with no rent to pay because of Grandma's house, I was able to save a sizable amount of my earnings. Mom began visiting frequently, usually with freshly baked cookies or a casserole, and at first our conversations were awkward and full of, with lengthy pauses and cautious words, she eventually started talking about their difficulties. For example, she would sigh about how high their heating bill was this month, or how Michael was growing so quickly that he needed new shoes again. The first time I offered to help, it was almost instinctive. Her mother was talking about a leaking faucet that they couldn't afford to fix, so I said, "I have some extra cash. Pull out $200 here and get it fixed." Her face brightened, and it became a regular practice to give small amounts here and there for whatever crisis they were dealing with that week. Then, unexpectedly, Emma and Lisa. When Mom mentioned that Michael needed a laptop for school, I didn't hesitate. The smile on his face when I gave it to him made all of our past history seem distant and unimportant. "You're the best big sister ever," he said, hugging me. That was our first real hug. The real breakthrough came during my business trip to New York, when Emma and Lisa asked if they could accompany me. Emma works as a receptionist, Lisa works in retail, and they told me about their jobs and their struggles to make ends meet. Apprehensive at first, but their enthusiasm was infectious. At our dinner at a tiny Italian restaurant in Little Italy, Emma raised her glass of house wine to the family, saying, "I've never been anywhere," Lisa admitted, "and my dad always said we couldn't afford it." I got them economy tickets and found a good tourist-class hotel in Manhattan, and watching them experience New York for the first time was like seeing the city through new eyes. They took pictures of everything, gasped at the height of the skyscrapers, and couldn't stop talking about how wonderful it was. Back home, the word didn't feel wrong. Our regular dinners became a tradition, and Mom, Emma, and Lisa insisted on ordering from inexpensive restaurants. They never ordered anything fancy, and they seemed truly thankful for everything, no matter how small. On a Tuesday afternoon, just like any other, I was going through work documents when my phone rang. Her name was Hi Sweetie, and her voice was warm and familiar. We talked about nothing in particular, like Michael's school performance, Emma's new haircut, and the typical family rumors. "We're wrapping up," she added. "Oh, honey, I hate to ask, but could you maybe transfer $200? The car needs some minor repairs. Sure, Mom, I'll send it right now. You're an angel, Amber. I love you so much. I was about to hang up when I heard rustling on the other end, and then voices became clearer. Mom must have thought she had pressed the end button. Did she fall for it? Emma's voice, followed by a laugh I hadn't heard since high school, sharply mocking. Of course she did. Lisa moaned. Miss Successful with her fancy job and her inherited house. God, I'm so tired of pretending to like her. Did you notice what she was wearing to dinner last week? That awful blazer. She thinks she's so much better than us just because she went to college. They all laughed. Mom, Emma, and Lisa. Then I heard Robert's voice join in. You're doing great, honey. He told Mom to keep it small for now, or we don't want to frighten her. I know, Mom responded. We have to play it smart. Emma whined. Why should she have all that money? You and Lisa are twice the daughter she ever was. Don't worry, we'll get what's ours. She's too stupid to see what's really going on. Always was just like her father. I ended the call with a single press of my finger, but their laughter continued to reverberate in my ears. I thought I'd finally found the family, but it never existed. I was playing the part of the stupid benefactor in this elaborate performance. The following morning, Mom's number appeared on my phone screen. Amber, honey, we're having a special family dinner tonight. You'll come, won't you? I heard the fake sweetness in her voice. Now the calculated warmth that I'd been too desperate to recognize before. Sure, Mom. What time is 7? Everyone will be there. When I got to the house, they were all waiting. Mom had prepared my favorite lasagna. Emma and Lisa were all dressed up, and Michael appeared to have been coached to be extra loving. Amber. Mom rushed to give me a hug. You look exhausted, sweetie. We're keeping you busy. I mechanically gave her a hug in return, observing how she and Robert continued to interact during dinner, asking about my job and laughing at each other's jokes while playing the perfect family. I watched them as if I were watching a play, taking in every staged smile and deliberate gesture. Finally, as we were finishing dessert, Mom cleared her throat, saying, We actually wanted to talk to you about something important. Move on to, more serious topics. The house has some structural problems, and the foundation needs urgent repairs. Robert added, trying to sound fatherly, that it will cost about $10,000. Mom leaned forward, her eyes wide and hopeful, and I smiled, seeing her face light up with triumph. She thought she had me, but the word fell into the silence like a stone into still water. When I said no, not $10,000, not $10, not another cent, I saw her smile falter. After you asked for that $200, Emma and Lisa froze, and even Michael, who probably didn't understand what was going on, stopped eating his cake. I heard everything I said, including how tired you are of acting like you like me, how you've been playing me for money, and how you think I'm stupid just like my father. Robert sat up straighter. But honey, Mom started, we really need you. You forgot to hang up the phone yesterday. I kept my voice calm, almost conversational. I stood up from the table. But you know what? I should thank you, because you finally showed me who you really are. And I can stop wasting my time trying to build a relationship with people who see me as nothing more than an ATM. I left that house. For the last time, ignoring their calls behind me, but of course they didn't give up easily. Lisa burst out about how you deserve my money more than I do. But it wasn't serious. Amber, sweetie. Mom reached for my hand, and I pulled it away. The next morning, I walked into my boss's office. Janet, you mentioned expanding the New York office 2 weeks later, and I had a transfer approval in hand. I listed Grandma's house with a realtor, and it sold quickly. The market was good, and it was in a prime location. That night, first Mom, then Robert, then the sisters, all begged for forgiveness and claimed it was just a joke. And when I blocked their numbers, they began knocking on my door at all hours. I knew I needed a fresh start. I don't regret my choice. Because I've learned that family isn't about blood or legal paperwork, it's about love. The kind that has no price tags and hidden costs. I have a lovely apartment on Manhattan's Upper West Side with large windows and a view of the park that would have made Grandma smile. Sometimes on quiet evenings, I think about them. Mom, Robert, Emma, Lisa, and little Michael. I hope Michael grows up to be different from them.